Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the podcast Talent Trailblazers. Today is a very special edition because we have with us a guest who also happens to be a customer of CBREX, Ravikanth. Ravikanth is the TA lead for Cargill, Cargill Business Services. And Ravikanth has had a very interesting career, and we'll start with that, Ravikanth. Uh, so Ravikant, you spent some years as a running a recruiting firm, right? And then you've crossed over, so as to say, and moved to the demand side, right? Which is started working in a corporate. So how was this? And this has been a 20-year journey, right? So just run us through some features there. Like how was it moving from one side to the other, and how did that work for you?
Yeah. Firstly, Gautam, thanks for bringing me to this podcast, and I'm always excited to share some experiences. I mean, in 20 years, I've done recruiting for 20 years, and obviously there are many experiences I enjoy every day. I enjoy recruiting every day. Um, so coming to consulting or corporate, when you join a consulting firm, generally many recruiters, right, they start off with a consulting firm. That is their first step. And you always have this bug that you have to go to a corporate, right? It is usually in the mindset that I have to go to a corporate. I always feel that consulting taught me what recruiting was. And corporate gave me a platform to share some of my learnings, especially on talent and things like that. While if you ask me personally, I still do consulting in a corporate, right? Um, uh, but the art of consulting, with the recruiting firms, is more. I mean, predominantly in the market, if you see it, is more said like you deliver maybe a set of resumes, and then your job is done in a recruitment firm, right? You just need to close or follow up with the corporate recruiter. When are you giving the offer? What happened to the interview? And your whole life goes there. But actually, many people miss that there is an element of consulting in that recruiting firm, right? The ability to make things happen, to create an environment where you have fair amount of discussions on talent. So I always believe consulting gives you that learning. Corporate, on the other side, brings the business vision on talent, right? It brings what the hiring manager or what the company is envisioning in terms of talent. And as a consultant or a recruiter, your ability is to uh, it's like a business analyst role, right? You take the business vision and transform it to technical requirements. Here you're taking the business vision and transforming it into talent requirements. That is the difference I feel. But the ethos of recruiting consulting will never change. According to me, has never changed in both places. And I think if I'm successful, it is because of that consulting experience. And I believe it teaches a lot.
That's great. Just had a follow up on this, Ravikant. If you look at the job on the consulting side, right? It's a revenue driven role, pure revenue, right? Because
Correct.
you are actually, it's like an
Yeah.
entrepreneur role, right? While the job on this side is not pure revenue, you have other responsibilities also. So how does that compare? Like, do you miss that part, like the revenue excitement? Because there is certain
Yeah,
salesy
absolutely.
revenue element to your earlier role. How is it now? Like, what are some of those things that you miss, or some of the things that you have here which you probably didn't have when you were doing the earlier?
Yeah. Uh, Billing and revenue is part of the role. Like recruiting, many people say it is a sales role, right? So actually, it gives a kick. It gives a very different kick when you go up the ladder and say, I want to place a CXO level position or a senior level role, your billing goes up, right? In a corporate, what happens is you are actually tying down to the revenue in some form or the other. If I don't have a sales candidate, if I'm not able to get, let's say, a sales leader for, let's say, 4 months, it is loss of revenue for me at the end of the day, right? Or a position doesn't get closed on time. It is loss of revenue also because you are also making somebody else stretch do that work, right? So both have their impacts, but ultimately, like I keep thinking, right? Both have a very pivotal role to play. The but if you ask me personally, what I enjoy both. I this is slightly different in a corporate game. I mean, it is not just about fulfilling a role. Most times, it is about thinking, what is our future talent? Where do I get this talent? And what should be my pipeline for it, right? And that's where you use a multifaceted strategy to actually ensure that your talent pipeline is continuously available for whatever needs of the business are there. So here the consulting is about the business and its requirements and working through. There it is about the position you are fulfilling, which is more slightly lower in terms of looking at the talent pool, trying to build relationships. That's more candidate driven. This is more business driven, I would say.
No,
I don't know
that's
if I
fine.
answered your question.
That's a very great analogy, right? And probably that is also more focused on the position, right?
Correct. Correct.
This is slightly at a
Slightly
macro.
higher. You're representing an organization at the end of
Correct,
the day.
correct. That's a great point. Let's switch tracks a bit, Ravikant. What about and you've seen the market evolve over the last 20 years on the tech side. When I'm saying tech, I'm talking about recruit tech, right? Like ATS tools came into the market 20 years ago. We had job boards in the late 90s, early 2000, right? And then we had VMS platforms and so on and so forth. And now, of course, we have AI, which everybody talks about. So if you look at evolution of tech in recruiting, right? How do you view that as compared to, like, if you look at the last 4 5 years as compared to earlier? What are some of the trends and some of the changes that you are seeing in the market, right? When it comes to pure tech, as far as recruiting is concerned.
Actually, I feel I'm blessed to be in a generation where I saw the switch, right? When I started working as a recruiter, I worked with some of the best recruiters, right? My mentor, Mr. Madhusudan, who led Classic Search, and I led shoulder to shoulder with some of the good consulting guys, as we call in the recruiting field, the big names who are there right now. But those days, I still remember I was told stories of people getting resume via um, post, and every recruiter used to file and put it, right, and those were their CVs. There was nothing like, I don't share it with anybody else. This is my connect. Okay. And because STD calling was half the price after 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., people used to call after 9 p.m., leave a message, try to catch them in their house, find landline numbers and all that. So I've seen that. I entered into the recruitment field when that was happening, and from there, when I entered, Naukri came, which is one of the leading job portals even now, and that brought a different definition, that the reach became better, right? You are able to reach candidates faster. Then came the LinkedIn. That changed the face of recruiting, in the sense that LinkedIn, if when I started, or remember that the portal was more for professional networking, and over years it became a recruiting portal, right? I don't want to get whether it is good or bad, but I think that gave reach to people like crazily. I mean, you could reach to anybody in the world with a in-mail or asking for a connect, right? And then these days, of course, you have even more better tools. You have screening and all that. The tech that has evolved, and I believe it is a good sign for recruiters, because it is helping the recruiter to gauge talent faster and in a more better way, right? Gone are those days. Today's recruiters, I know the new age recruiters who are stepping into the industry have a very different way of recruiting, in the sense that they go by keywords, they go by AI generated, maybe links and research also. But people from, I can say, my generation or a little older generation, we go by the role and the understanding of the business first, even before we get into what kind of a guy will suit. I feel that has become a difference. So today's younger generation go to a portal and quickly search 4 5 guys and we check interest, right? But the that pre-planning phase is, I think, has come down with the advent of tech, which has come, and it is for good. But recruiters often, what happens is the roles which are easily available, or you have talent available, you tend to fill fast. You are able to fill, but there will be roles where, for example, in one of my search assignments, right, when I did an intake with a CEO, the only requirement was mujhe, he told in Hindi, right, मुझे मुझे धंधा करने वाला सीईओ चाहिए. Now, how do you understand what does dhanda mean, right? Dhanda, like it's in the blood of the person to do business, right? So when you get there, that's where keywords don't work. That's where the psyche needs to be understood, or what is behind what is untold in a job description needs to be told, needs to be understood and then identify, right? So assessments become important, and the way we look at it becomes very, very different. So that's where I think uh, AI is amazing, tech is amazing. We are getting into a world where recruiting is becoming faster. We want to, but also it's becoming plentitude, right? Today, the recruiter's role has become even more important than what it was, because we have to now look at quality. We are able to get talent. How do I assess? Suppose two candidates are there from the same pedigree with a similar kind of experience. How does a recruiter evaluate and put towards the manager is becoming more and more important. So that's what I think at the evolution of tech, but it's for our good. And I'm enjoying it. I have, I think, another 10 years to see it, at least 10, 15 years. So I'm looking forward to what tech brings to the industry.
So if you look at the skill set of a recruiter, right, at the time when you joined the industry, right, even before, and as a recruiter who's joining the industry in 2023, right, which is now, right? How do you think that has changed? Like, what were some of the skill sets that a recruiter should have had, when you joined, or what you had, compared to what do you look for today when you are hiring either for Cargill, or just meeting a recruiter and evaluating that person for your own team? How has that changed in the last 10 to 20 years?
Yeah. Firstly, I'll start with a small funny side of it. I don't think anybody coming out of campus will want to be a recruiter,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Yeah. जब जब सारे doors बंद हो जाते हैं, that's when you end up being a recruiter, like me, or even getting into the insurance sector, right? Uh, but jokes apart, I think the what has changed is, I think like I said, the way the new age recruiters, when they are stepping in, I think what we are not doing very well is enabling them to develop some kind of business acumen. Number one, understanding industries and the nuances in the industries. I think the new age recruiters depend a lot on faster search and less on, they also research, but the research is again to identify a candidate. It is not to understand the business as to how the business models are, how things are working, and all that, right? So I think that is one difference that I see from where I started. We were always told to understand the behind the what is not told in the JD, but we today and it's also not their, I'm not saying it's their mistake, but I think it's the way the industry award today. If I the job descriptions I see, some of them is Java with 2 years of experience, right? So you just click Java or a Python or whatever the latest Python plus plus, if something else has come. But so you are only saying, do you know this? Do you know that? And you are looking at 2 years. But we are seldom not understanding if the person has a mindset to adapt. Let's say that person is in a services company working for a life insurance client. If he is able to adapt to a food and agri major to develop a different kind of an app, because the business understanding changes, the code writing may be same, but the way of application that works is very different. It's the same difference between front and back and middleware, where you are writing in. But that understanding is very important, I feel, for this generation of recruiters which are coming. And because of the speed of recruiting, right? I think it is the evolution of the recruiting game. When IT stepped in, it actually changed the face of recruiting. The BPO industry changed the face of recruiting. So it is all today about filling a job and getting somebody faster, right? It is not about, is this talent going to be my future CEO? I don't know if seldom recruiters think about that. The
You
person
think
whom I'm recruiting as an executive IT, can he be my CEO? Forget about CEO. Can he be my vice president in about 10 years, 12 years time? I don't think we are concerned about that right now. That's my
you think
read.
speed has overtaken horizon, right? Would that be a fair, like people are wanting
Yeah.
to hire
Yeah.
fast rather than look at somebody
Higher
saying,
fast means
yeah,
for the need that they have currently.
so it's not looking like 3 years, 5 years into the future,
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
this
So
person
as you go up, right? So as you go up, maybe it is little more serious, but especially the 0 to 7, 8 years is more for the need currently to execute for more operational, for more, you know, smaller roles, or scope of the role is very limited to operations, I would say. It's like that.
very interesting, very interesting. That was useful, I think, because a lot of the people who listen to our podcast are in the talent acquisition industry. Right. So I think that would be, that is something which I specifically asked because, it would be relevant to a lot of people who are listening to this.
Yeah.
And hopefully, as you
Yeah,
said, some of
absolutely.
them would want to make a career in talent acquisition. Right. That's always the hope. So let me switch tracks a bit and come to, the engagement that CBREX had with Cargill, or rather has with Cargill. So, and I know, we have been talking, we spoke for months before we actually got into implementation. So just want to get some thought processes around initial thoughts. So what were some of the thought processes that Cargill had when they were looking at like a VMS, like a consolidation of vendors, because it's a fairly new thing, right? When it comes to FTE or perm hiring, right? I mean, VMSs and consolidation of vendors has been a pretty old concept in the staffing, temping space more than 20 years ago, but very new in the FTE or the perm hiring space. So and it was a big leap actually. So, what were some of the thoughts going on in your mind or your colleagues' mind as you were discussing CBREX, maybe other stuff, other tools, on why you would want to do vendor consolidation? What would be some of the advantages that the company would have? Just want to
Sure.
get a bit of the background of that.
Sure. I mean, I've known CBREX not just when we started the engagement, but when I was doing my independent consulting, also CBREX, I was on the platform as one of the guys who could support. Of course, I never did anything after that, but yeah, but it was a very interesting idea. First of all, when I became the TA lead and I started looking at vendors, right? Because of my experience to come from the consulting side, I knew the pain that consultants go through, especially to collect their payments, especially to interact with the organization. And for me, one of the pivotal things as a TA lead was to equally, as we look at providing a hiring manager experience or a candidate experience, one of the key things is also to provide a great vendor experience, right? And um, and for me, what I saw was every other day I get an invite either on LinkedIn or maybe on my email about somebody working on a consulting, say, hey, I have done for this GCC, or I work in the FMCG industry, I work in the data analytics place, I would like to work with Cargill, right? And what I realized is it took a lot of time for me to. So we had one set of vendors that we were already working with. And when I came in, again, based on relationship, based on many other factors, we brought in new vendors, we tried, and sometimes the business refers vendors as well, right? So at some point of time, I started feeling that it is, and we have to get into a contract with them. Then there is billing. Then there is a lot of talking that needs to be done. And what I realized is, I mean, I have a team of about 20 odd recruiters who are working in different facets, and each vendor needs to develop a relationship with that recruiter to get the mandate and work through. And it is a time taking process. And maybe also I started thinking, are we missing some good vendors whom we don't know of, right? It is today the 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 field is very level playing, right? You need acumen. You need to find sharp vendors if they have to make a difference to what you do, right? And as corporate, we have goals on diversity. We want to bring a good diverse slate of resume, not limited to gender, but in terms of talent also, which means that you need acumen from the vendor side to give, and everybody has access to Naukri. Even my team does, or vendor team does. They have. So it's going beyond that, right? So my view when I went to CBREX was to use the platform to um, actually expand my horizon as a TA lead on vendors. And that platform made it easy for me, because for me it is a single platform wherein you may be interacting with multiple vendors, and there may be so many vendors that you use right now that I don't know of. And one of the things we are working with CBREX right now is to develop that proficiency about which vendor has the proficiencies to do which kind of roles. So it gives me that flexibility as a TA lead. It gives me that insight as a TA lead. And for me, more importantly, my vendor experience does get better because I'm able to process their invoices faster. There is no need to follow up, ask, all those operational things are primarily getting automated for me. And ultimately, nobody else need to, it sometimes takes time, right? No fault of the vendor, no fault of us. Sometimes the process itself is so long in terms of getting the payment out. I do remember, right, when I was in my consulting days, um, one company that I worked for, I never used to follow up. I used to get my check in 30 days. But I can firmly tell you that I couldn't deliver that experience when I'm the TA lead for various reasons, right? But I want to give that experience to my vendors. And I thought this is one of the route to give that experience. Vendor experience is as important because they are our partners, and they are our key segment to attract talent. So we have to ensure that their interests are met. For example, right, you have in a company like ours, when we do many roles, you have 5 6 vendors working on the same role. We stopped that also. The last When I came in, we said, let's work with one vendor and let's partner with them. Let's give them all the information that they need. Similar thing we are trying to do with CBREX also. It's not a free for all thing. Let's look at who has the expertise, who has the ability, who is trying to invest with us. Let us give them more opportunity. So it gives me greater insights. Now, if I have to do that manually, what CBREX does in terms of profiling or even vendor insights overall, how many people did how many roles, and what is their performance, if I have to take, for me it takes a lot of time, because I have to review, I have to ask everybody. But CBREX gives me that advantage, right, wherein everything is on a neat dashboard. I get to know how many CVs are flowing, what is happening a little more. Yeah, long story short, I think CBREX, we started off on a good note. And of course, we are also learning through the process. And I'm sure when there are vendors also from whom we are getting positive feedback, there are areas of improvement, and it's good we are partnering. And I see that strengthening quite a bit as we go by. It's only been 6 months, so I think, and we will strengthen the partnership and ultimately give better experience to our vendors.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. I think vendor experience, you spoke at length about that. That's something which is very nice to hear because I don't think a lot of companies have that on their agenda, while it should be, as you said, because at the end of the day, these guys are your partners, right? And without
Yeah.
them, you really can't grow because they are the
Yeah.
ones who are sourcing key talent. And without key talent, no
Absolutely.
company can grow. As simple as that. Like talent and sales, these two are a must, right? You can't. No company in the world can grow if you don't have sales and you don't have people, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that's a great point. And vendor experience, as you rightly said, with a platform like the VMS kind of a situation, becomes much better. Very, very. The diversity part was another interesting thing. I also have Cincy with me on the show. Ravikanth, she's been patiently listening. So Cincy, as you know, handles the Cargill business from our end, right? So I thought it was a good opportunity to get her on this podcast, and she has some questions for you. Cincy, over to you.
No, just a couple. I think few
So
months
since
into
we keep the tough ones for one-on-one calls, since it's a podcast, keep the good ones here.
I'll be kind on you today, Ravikant. Only simple ones coming your way. So a few months into this whole engagement, between CBREX and Cargill, just wanted to understand. Do you think, did you think it would go this way, or did you have something in mind, something else in mind? How do you see this going?
Frankly, it is still too early. From a perception wise, I believe in this idea. There is no doubt that I believe in this idea, and I think our partnership is going well. We are getting the right support from CBREX, and I hope you're getting the same from us. But it is about partnership, right? Where CBREX, I mean, I'm still yet to see the impact that I envisioned when I started. Is about as a as a recruiter or as a business or as an organization, what we expect is, like I said, diversity of CV, quality of CV, and the velocity of CV. Velocity of CV is about getting resume faster, to the table, ability to present a good set of resumes. And I think it does take time, even for a regular vendor who works with us directly or not, or through CBREX, in order to understand the complexity of Cargill and the kind of roles we do. It does require competency, application, and it does take time. So at this point of time, I would say it's in the right direction, but the impact of it, of what I envision to see impacting all the three factors I told you, is only time will tell. Maybe in the next 6 to 8 months, it will take a little time for us to fathom, very, very frankly.
I agree on that. So we are still in that infant stages of working together, and we
Yeah,
really
but what I really appreciate about CBREX is, I think it opened us up to a new set of consultants. Whenever I go to the weekly calls with CBREX and all that, I see some new names coming up. I get to meet some new vendors. I see their enthusiasm for working with us, which is a good sign, right? You need that partnership. So even when I was a consultant, right, I really had 2 3 major accounts that I used to work with. The relationship that I could build with them actually helped in my success or my own growth. And by working with us, I also believe the vendor grows, because um, and the individual also who's working with us, making that effort to reach out to candidates. Now, the thing is, how they are equipped to represent Cargill in the market becomes important. What do they know about Cargill becomes important. How are they positioning or representing us in the market is of a key factor, right? So yeah, as we partner, I think we have to work towards bringing those ideas, and for them to uh, attract the right talent. How do we equip them is one of the things that is running on my mind. But however, it is good to see a new vendor, a new set of breed of recruiters who are coming in. Very nice questions when we go to intakes. Yeah, it's fun actually for me. I do enjoy it a lot. Uh,
for
yeah,
our marketplace vendors also, Cargill has been a great entrant because it's a different domain. It's a different,
yeah,
compared to the other
yeah,
industries.
yeah.
So it has been great. Likewise at our end as well. Also heard you mention about diversity, Ravikant. Diversity is big at Cargill, right?
Yeah.
So, do you see that the marketplace vendors are able to, fulfill the diversity needs to a certain extent, whether it's the language side or whether it's on your, regular business roles?
Yeah, I think so because it's good to see that one of the key parameters again as a TA leader is when there if there is no noise, that means everything is fantastic, right? So I don't hear a noise from my stakeholders. Maybe their trust in me, or whether CBREX is doing it, or in me and my team, right? I think we have been able to nurture that quite well. But like I said, because of the diversity of Cargill, right, we have things like ocean transportation, for example. It's a very new skill even for anybody to pick up. It took me 6 months to understand what the business itself does, right? Like that, there are many pockets in Cargill, which even I'm not aware, even after working for 5 years, right? It takes me time to understand, oh, we do this. It's like I'm myself surprised, oh, we have this tool kind, right? So I think it's a journey. Like I said, it's going to be a journey, but overall, I'm happy with the kind of response we get. And diversity, of course, right now I think the vendors are limited to gender, and we need to expand that portfolio for sure, which also means we need to tell them what our priorities are. And Cargill has a very clear commitment and priorities to diversity as a whole. So I think the more we take it and more we make them inclusive to our vision and journey, I believe we'll get greater results. But right now, I think we are happy with the diversity slate that is coming in with respect to gender. But yeah, there is a lot more. It's just the beginning, and we have a lot more work to do.
Since any other questions, Ravikant? Okay, Ravikant, this was super helpful. I want to sign off with just one question because I think this is
Sure.
something which a lot of people keep asking, and that's the big elephant in the room, which is AI, right? So no podcast is complete without some AI conversation. So recruiters are scared. Some of them are scared that, hey, is my job at stake? Will AI take my job? And anything new which comes, people also have fear. There's excitement, but there's also fear, right? So and you've been like in this industry for such a long time, so well versed on the tech side when it comes to recruit tech, which we've been talking about for the last 20-25 minutes. What's your take on this? Like, would you like to reassure recruiters, or what's let me not put words in your mouth. What do you think AI, how do you think AI is going to impact recruiters, like the job function and the recruiting world as such?
I mean, I would like to I would like to answer it in two phases, right? The advent of AI is basically today, right? If you look at where AI is impacting, it is taking the operational roles away. Operational roles in the sense where a human does an operational work, that role we are trying to automate to do. About 10 years ago, I attended a very interesting workshop. Actually, I forgot the name, but one key takeaway for me was it was led by somebody, a vice president who was with Infosys at the time. He said the evolution of the human mind is so that I do not want people to do lower level work. If I'm, let's say, the services companies hires tons of graduates, right? They have to do a greater level work than just writing, or just writing a small code in somewhere in a block, or just trying to fix a code in testing using manual testing or whatever. It is beyond that work, right? So even in recruiting, it is important. So aligning that thing to recruiting, right? If you are just doing a keyword search today, with keywords AI can give me CVs, but not all CVs that I get need convert into a hire for me, because you need a human element of a talent conversation. So the more recruiters go beyond keyword, if you don't develop that acumen about talent research and the connect you create on the market side with the candidates and internally with your stakeholders, then those roles, if you just end up looking at that operational bit is getting, in my view, will get will be eaten by AI. So for me, the important point for the recruiters or for recruiters is, it's not the, actually those jobs are, even if you're in that role, it won't take you anywhere. So it is good AI takes over and you do something more meaningful. Because if your job daily is to run keywords and download resumes and give it to somebody to screen, and you're not using your mind for it, there is no value to being a human, right? I mean, you want to do greater work, you want to grow, but recruiting as a function, I mean, recruiting as a role actually gives you so much of learning and insight about everything that happens, that it is one of the best roles one can get. Unfortunately, people see it as target oriented or very much like a sales role, right? The sales guy who's working in a sales has so much of acumen and thinking about every other product and all that. The recruiter has that kind of a visibility in an organization. I believe in that. So whether what products are coming to launch, so a recruiter needs to know who are my competitors, what is my business, what is the business model, what new products are coming, where are we as an organization there. That is the kind of intent and the intensity with which recruiters need to work. Then AI cannot come there, right? AI today is doing very normal work. I mean, what we call as operational work is getting into AI, and it may take maybe at, I don't know, but I feel that is very difficult because we are in the business of talent and we need the human mind to intervene. So to make a candidate join at the same salary or just above or to negotiate, I know how much AI can do. For AI, it will still be transactional. Okay, if it is not 21 lakhs, are you open to 20 lakhs or 22 lakhs? But there is something behind the screen that the human mind will do in that conversation, right? And it's both ways. You have to work with the hiring manager, you have to work with the candidate, you have to see the best interests of the organization. So a lot of these things I don't think AI can do. So I don't think recruiting jobs will go away. But yes, the expectations from the business of on recruiting have changed. It is beyond fulfilling a role. So I, as a recruiter, if I'm not preparing for the future about how my stakeholder engagement is, what my business understanding is, what am I thinking about talent, how do I create enough supply chain for the roles I work or for the segment I work, and how much I know my candidate pool market, it will be difficult for recruiters to outgrow their roles. I don't think all recruiter, I mean, this is my personal opinion again, but I don't think recruiting as a job will ever go away. It requires a human to be there. Yeah.
That's great. And
AI
very
will
good.
provide us AI will provide us with that space to be able to build a better human connect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. AI can
great.
help you be meaner, faster, efficient.
Mhm. That's a great point.
Uh, but I don't think it can. I personally don't think. I don't know. I'll myself be very surprised if something like that happens.
I think that on a very positive note, we shall end. And that's a very good message to all the recruiters out there that AI will actually make your job richer, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely not take away your job. So don't be worried on that front. Thanks a lot, Ravikant. This was super useful, super helpful. Thanks for taking the time and spending this 30 minutes with us.
No, my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you, Gotham. Thank you, Cincy, for coming over, and it was wonderful talking. And yeah, I have recruiting has given me a lot of thing. I enjoy, like I said, I don't know, I don't know anything else probably other than recruiting. I love it. I love every day of my work, and Cargill gave me an amazing platform. And what really I experience at Cargill is the diversity of roles, the diversity of careers, the culture, which excites me and keeps me motivated every day. Frankly, I'm telling you, there's never a day where I woke up and said, should I go to office, right? It's a great, recruiting as a field is great. Apart from that, Cargill has been very good. So right now, it's good to give back whatever little I gained over 20 years back to, my recruiting friends, my fellow recruiters, and thank you for providing this platform for me to do so. And thank you so much for
Thank
this
you.
podcast.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Bye. Take care.